Hello, welcome to Look East. Tonight we're live at a GP surgery and we're asking what can be done to keep more doctors in the profession. Recruitment crisis. More GPs in the East have left their jobs in the last 2 years than anywhere else in the UK. The family of a doctor who took his own life say his workload put him under too much pressure.
You take a lot home with you in that line of work if you haven't been able to, fix someone, if that's what you want to call it. That holds a bit of a burden over you, I think.
In other news, an inquest hears how the Prodigy singer Keith Flint had painkillers, drugs and alcohol in his system when he died.
And there's been heavy, thundery showers across the region this afternoon. I'll be here at the end of the programme with the latest weather.
Well, we're at the Creffield GP surgery. It's a super surgery in Colchester. They've got 15 consulting rooms here. They do all sorts of things. They've got a pharmacy. They've got a physiotherapist. They do this kind of thing, which is going on behind me now. Can you see? These people come in from the community. They get to meet other people and they do exercises. And keeping healthy and fit is one of the important things. So the problem is that we can't get enough GPs and we don't have enough GPs because we're losing a lot of them. Let's just see how bad the situation is. There are about 4,000 GPs in the east of England. They're well paid. Salaries for GP jobs advertised on a recruitment website today range from £80,000 to £150,000 a year. But the numbers are falling, the first sustained drop for 50 years. In the last 2 years, the number of GPs in this region has fallen by 162. That's a fall of 4.4%. It leaves us with just over 54 GPs for every 100,000 people. The national average in 2014 was nearly 65 GPs. The Royal College of GPs describe it as disheartening and says it creates a perfect storm that's leading to GPs becoming stressed and burning out. Of course, one of the big problems when it comes to GPs leaving the profession is what they're doing during the day and every day and what they're doing during the night sometimes. And that can build up a great deal of stress. It means that the workload in and out of the surgery becomes too much for people. They take that work home with them. They find it difficult to struggle with. They find it difficult to cope with everyday life. Nikki Fox has been to meet the family of one GP who couldn't cope.
A precious moment with his two young daughters. A home video Holly and Rosie Bennett often look back on. Now teenagers, they say their father was a fantastic dad, but the pressures of being a GP made him ill.
I think a lot of people are mistaken that it's quite an easy 9 till 5, 9 till 3 job. I think people make complaints, they don't realise how much of an effect that has on the individual that they're sending that to. You take a lot home with you in that line of work if you haven't been able to, fix someone, if that's what you want to call it. That holds a bit of a burden over you, I think.
Dr. Richie Bennett was in his 50s when his mental health deteriorated, working at this practice in the seaside town of Felixstowe.
He'd leave the house at 7 in the morning and often not get home till 7 at night. If they're doing 12-hour days and not having much time for a break, then that's a lot of time for somebody whose life is in your hands. You're risking making hugely difficult medical decisions quite quickly.
Dr. Lucy Henshall works for the National GP Health Service. It provides mental health support for doctors. More than 1,000 registered in a year. She opened a recent conference with a speech on GP suicides.
This is a dirty secret of life in general practice.
It ended with a minute's silence for the 400 GPs who had taken their lives. In areas of the country like Colchester in Essex, 22% of GPs are due to retire in the next year. Dr. Henshall thinks the NHS needs to work hard to prevent more from leaving.
Virtually every GP I know would say there's a constant tension between doing the volume of work that has to be done and the quality of care they know they can provide. And that tension is a tightrope. They can't cut corners, but they can't give as much as they want to each task because there's 10 more coming.
But in a statement, NHS England said new funding is ensuring the NHS GP health service is extended to all doctors across the country. And this will mean the NHS will have a more comprehensive national mental health support offer to doctors than any other country in the world.
There isn't a lot of support or mentoring within the health service. I do think they are trying to get it better, but it's not happening quickly.
The NHS is taking steps to support doctors, but with an increasing elderly population and a large number of GPs retiring, protecting the health of those still in surgery could become even more important. Nikki Fox, BBC Look East.
Well, we saw Dr. Lucy Henshall in that film by Nikki Fox. You knew Dr. Bennett very well.
I did. He was a year above me at medical school, and then a long time later he became my husband's practice partner in Felixstowe, yes, and a family friend.
And is his story typical of how being a good doctor can affect you?
Richard exemplified good general practice. He was an incredibly caring doctor, and yes, it does take its toll. Giving of yourself, caring for other people is very demanding, and the problem we have in general practice is the pace now leaves no time, no reflective space for GPs to actually process that work they're doing. So if you're very good at it and very committed and you're doing it 12 hours a day, you run out of steam.
If we look at this practice here, for example, they do so much here. You've got nurse practitioners, you've got assistants who are taking blood and things like that. Does that make a difference to their workload, or does that sometimes cause a problem?
It's certainly better than not having it. Ideally, we would have enough GPs and all of that as well. It should be an add-on instead of replacing GPs that we can't hold on to or can't recruit. But it is the way general practice is going to have to go.
Do you think patients appreciate the problems that doctors are having?
I think they do with the doctor they know, and I think they will when they watch this programme. But I think patients are on one side and doctors are in the middle, and the system is on the other side, and everybody is fraught. And so patients sometimes unleash their frustration on the doctors when they don't mean to, or perhaps when they don't realise the impact that can have on a doctor. A complaint is a very damaging experience for a doctor who is ultimately trying to do their best every hour of every day they are at work.
Now, if you could say to the powers that be, give me one thing that this will make things better, what would that be? Because they are trying to train more people.
They are trying to train more people, but we need to retain the people we've got. And I think simply, we have a bucket with holes in it. We're losing GPs. There's a system problem and we need to mend the holes. So it's the root causes. And I believe that is not enough support for GPs who are in post, well GPs who are working day in, day out. We need psychological support for them as well as for GPs when they become unwell.
And don't we have to have GPs saying this is a great career?
It is a great career. I love being a GP. I absolutely love being a GP. But it shouldn't be that as a female GP, I have 4 times the risk of suicide as other female professionals in this country. That tells us we have a problem we have to fix. But it is a fantastic career. Caring for patients is fabulous.
Lucy Henshall, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Well, we've been talking to some patients today to see what they think.
They're all here to help us in different ways, so I'm more than happy with that.
And you're happy to give your information to someone who's not a GP?
Absolutely. Yes, no problem at all. And they're all very good and they have different functions.
I always come, pick up my prescription, just go to the pharmacy. It's so easy. I've seen nurses here and generally I've had pretty good experiences.
It's very, very difficult to get an appointment.
That's the main issue.
This is the big problem, yes. Because I haven't got enough staff, doctors, I know nurse practitioners and what have you.
You're happy to see a nurse practitioner instead of a GP?
Yes, because a nurse practitioner, if they can't help you, a doctor, she calls a doctor, which is very good.
Well, one of the things they have here in the same building is a pharmacy. So if you're coming to see a GP, there we are. That's the traditional way of counting out the pills. Always one that I like to see. John, I mean, the pharmacy takes pressure off the doctors. How do they do that?
Of course, we at Calvary Road Pharmacy here offer a lot more than just dispensing medicines. We do a wide range of services such as travel clinic, urgent medication, and also NHS health checks, emergency contraception. We also stock a wide range of over-the-counter products.
And you help people stop smoking?
Of course, stop smoking.
And sometimes if people come into the surgery, they will be told to come and have a chat with you.
Of course, any minor ailments we can sort out here in the pharmacy for you.
Good, thank you very much. We'll let you get on with counting out the pills. As we've already said, they are trying to recruit more people to be GPs of the future. So Felicity Simper has been talking to some of the young students who are starting out on the road in a medical career.
Could one of these students be your GP in the future? They're all studying at England's newest medical school at Anglia Ruskin University in Chelmsford. It opened last year. At the moment, there are 100 students here and the first ones will graduate in 2023. But general practice is just one area they could go into.
My name's Nishita. I'm a first-year medical student at Anglia Ruskin University and I'm undecided whether I want to be a GP.
My name's Jack Kilby. I'm a first-year medical student at Anglia Ruskin University and I'm also undecided about becoming a GP.
I'm Robbie Hayes and I'm studying medicine at Anglia Ruskin University. And at the moment I'm undecided about becoming a GP or not.
So what would persuade these students to work in general practice?
Perhaps having more incentives and also maybe having a positive portrayal of GPs in the media, because all we see now is that there is a pressure that GPs are finding it hard to work, that patients aren't happy with them, and I think that needs to change. We need a shift towards it being more positive and saying this is an attractive career if you want.
At the moment, a lot of GPs are seen as they don't do enough, even though they do, and you see people waiting in waiting rooms for hours on end, whereas GPs are trying as hard as they can. And I think if the community realised that they're doing as best they can, it would be more appealing to every student out there.
I think, like with all specialties, general practice is a package. So it's about work-life balance, job satisfaction, and really evaluating what people want from their career, and can general practice provide that?
Would it suit you, do you think?
There's definitely aspects of GP which I would really enjoy, particularly working in the community in Essex where you study. I think we have a great foundation here at Anglia Ruskin to do that. So yeah, there's definitely elements of it that are attractive.
With years of studying still ahead of them, Jack, Robbie and Nishita have plenty of time to decide whether they will become part of a new generation of GPs working to serve our ageing population. Felicity Simper, BBC Look East, Chelmsford.
So some food for thought. We'll be back here. We'll be talking to one of the GP partners later in the programme, much more about the role of GPs and how we can keep them in the NHS. But for now, let's go back to the studio and Susie for more news. Susie.
Thank you, Stuart. Suffolk police say the formal identification of 2 people killed in an explosion at a bungalow could take several days. They died yesterday after a series of blasts at the property in Lydgate near Newmarket. Robbie West is there now. Robbie.
Susie, for those who don't know where Lydgate is, it's about 7 miles east of Newmarket. Yesterday, police and firefighters were called here following reports of an explosion. Today, firefighters have been here and they've been doing assessments, and it's been confirmed that 2 people have died.
Fire investigation dog Rex was today brought to the scene to search for any flammable substances. He is part of the investigation taking place here to determine exactly what happened yesterday.
Rex is one of the assets which we've borrowed for this incident. He will be carrying out a search and a survey of the area, and he's trying to indicate when we have things like hydrocarbons, which are flammable materials, petrols, that type of thing. It will identify what they are, and it helps us as part of our investigation process. It's an invaluable asset, to be honest. Without that, there's an awful lot more work for us to do, so it helps us carry out our task, but it carries out our task in a more efficient manner.
The rear of the bungalow was blown out, and neighbours said the explosion rattled windows in their homes. 2 people were initially unaccounted for, but have now been confirmed to have died. Suffolk Police said the road was likely to remain closed for quite some time.
Firefighters have assured local residents here that there is no further threat to their homes. Police say the investigation could take a couple of days. Susie, back to you.
Robbie, thank you very much. An inquest has heard that the prodigy singer Keith Flint had painkillers, drugs and alcohol in his system when he died. His body was discovered at his Essex home in March, but today the coroner said there was not enough evidence to conclude he'd intended to take his own life. Kim Riley reports.
Keith Flint, here performing one of Prodigy's biggest hits, was found dead at his home in the hamlet of North End near Dunmow by a friend. At today's brief hearing in Chelmsford, it was confirmed he died by hanging. The post-mortem finding unspecified amounts of cocaine, alcohol and codeine in his system. Senior coroner Caroline Beasley Murray reached an open conclusion. We'll never quite know what was going on in his mind, she said. She said she considered suicide, that he'd taken deliberate action that he knew would result in his death. But I don't think there's enough evidence for that. She also found insufficient evidence that it was some kind of accident, that he'd been larking around and all went horribly wrong. Thousands of fans came to the village of Bocking to pay their tributes on the day of his funeral at St Mary's Church. Referring to these scenes, the coroner said Keith was clearly much loved by so many. She expressed her sympathy to the band's manager and Keith Flint's family. Kim Riley, BBC Look East, Essex.
A crane has toppled over and smashed into the roof of a house in Essex. It was being used to lower materials over the roof of the property in Billericay when it tipped. The driver was trapped inside and was treated by paramedics. It's been confirmed that a community hospital in Norfolk will close. Despite a local campaign, All Hallows in Ditchingham will shut and the remaining patients will be found alternative accommodation. Local healthcare commissioners are hoping to reopen the hospital if a new provider comes forward. That's all from me. Now it's time to go back to Stuart in Colchester. Stuart.
Susie, thank you very much indeed. I know lots of people will be worried about not getting a GP appointment. They have an appointment system here. They open the phones at 8 o'clock in the morning and they have about 60 appointments during the course of the day that those people who urgently need it on the day will be able to get. But talking to the receptionist here this evening, one of the big problems they have is something called a DNA. Did not arrive. 300 every month. People have made an appointment, don't turn up. And that's time that the GP could be spending with a patient who does want to see them. There's been a recruitment fair to get more people into the profession at the football ground, and Richard Daniel went to see them.
They're holding 5 GP jobs fairs in Essex this year. At the latest today, surgeries looking to recruit new staff won't exactly run off their feet.
Well, on this board there are 22 GP vacancies being advertised, and over here a few more nurse vacancies. And if you look at these adverts, here the salary on offer is £120,000, but they're struggling to recruit. And therein lies a story.
Nirmalan De Silva from the Mill Road Surgery in Colchester was looking for a new GP or nurse practitioner. He's the only full-time GP left in his practice.
When I applied for my job at where I'm working now, there was 40 applicants. Now we're lucky if we get one. We've had one GP leave due to early retirement. We've had 3 become locums. 1 actually left to join the restaurant trade because it was less stressful.
On top of the national shortage, North East Essex finds it particularly hard to recruit GPs to work in practices in its rural and coastal communities. Part of the solution could be people like Mehil Panchal. He's a clinical pharmacist. He wants a new job in a GP surgery, where he could assess and diagnose patients and prescribe medicine.
We have taken off a lot of pressure off the GP's shoulder, and yeah, the role is quite popular at the moment.
I was speaking to one recently trained GP who said out of 25 of her cohort, 23 have gone to work abroad.
And that's actually what we're actually seeing, and that's why we need to make sure that it's attractive to come and work here and stay here. We don't want to sort of really train our sort of staff actually and then see that we're losing them from abroad. The other aspect that we do, it's fair to say, we go internationally as well to try and recruit GPs and nurses too.
The problem of GP shortages has been growing for years. Everyone at today's fair was well aware there are no quick fixes. Richard Daniel, BBC Look East, Colchester.
Well, let's speak to Dr. Hassan Chowan, who's GP partner here at the Crefeld surgery. What's the best thing and the worst thing about being a GP? Because we heard those students earlier say that it doesn't get enough good publicity. So the best thing first and then the worst thing.
Well, the best thing is easy. This is about the variety of jobs. So you don't know what's going to come through the door. It could be somebody with a very small problem. It could be somebody with a completely complex problem that you don't have a clue in terms of how to solve. That variety is what keeps me interested. The worst part of it probably is the sheer volume, and I'd say, really, I'm ashamed to say, the paperwork that comes with the job. It's just overwhelming.
Can I just say that today you've been in and out of your office because we're here, and you've been doing paperwork virtually the whole afternoon?
I have indeed. I've still got some left over, actually. I'll probably be here probably late in the evening finishing it off.
And that's not why you wanted to be a doctor?
Not at all. I don't think I ever envisaged myself sitting in front of a screen for several hours a day, clicking on things and just doing administrative tasks. It never really was part of the vision.
You can understand why young people coming into the profession might want to specialise and go into a big hospital?
I can completely. I mean, actually, I know I maybe look pretty young, but actually years ago I was one of those people. I qualified in surgery before changing to do general practice, and my reason for doing that was purely and simply the variety and the difference that you get to see in terms of patients in general practice and being a family practitioner, so I get to follow up families through generations. That's something that really is quite central to general practice.
One of the big problems we have in this region is an ageing population, and actually they will come with all sorts of problems, but you can't cure old age, can you?
Not yet. Sadly, I can't. There is no cure for old age, but what I can do is make life better for those people who are old, who happen to develop long-term conditions. So people develop medical problems, social problems as they get older, not least to say just loneliness, and actually our role can be quite crucial to helping them through that.
Does it frustrate you that you can't find enough GP? Can you? I mean, do you have vacancies here?
We do have vacancies, yes.
And you can't find the right person?
No, we can't. It is incredibly frustrating. I mean, we know that there are increasing number of GPs supposedly supposed to be going through the training system. Unfortunately, many of those are out of region, and we know that when people qualify, they don't actually want to do the job as I did the job a few years ago. And so the role is changing, and people's expectations of what they want to do at work is changing as well.
And a third of them drop out?
Indeed.
So that makes it even more difficult?
It makes it challenging, yes. So the official statistic is a third drop out of training, but those that follow through then don't always work full time. They want to take leave for certain things, and actually why shouldn't they be able to live their life? But it does pose a challenge when you've got an increasing health need, an increasing demand on a shrinking workforce.
The pitch to any young student now, tell them why they should come and work in GP.
General practice is fantastic. General practice is really where the action's at. We get to see people first, we get to treat them first, and actually you can do as much as you can in terms of your interest. So you can actually develop an interest for any other specialty you want and bring it out into the community whilst being a general practitioner. Plus you get to work with many different people within the community, not least to say volunteers and patients. It's a fantastic job.
Dr. Chowan, thank you so much for talking to us, and thanks for having us here today. It's been fantastic.
You're most welcome.
Let's get the weather now with Alex.
Thank you, Stuart. Hello there. Quite a lot of rain across the region today, but we do need that rain, so gardens and fields have had a good old soaking today. An appropriately named weather watcher's photograph taken in Felixstowe this afternoon. We have had an area of rain first thing and then some showers following on behind. It's all been tied into this area of low pressure, which is going to take its time clearing eastwards through tomorrow. So if we look at the radar, you can see that early rain this morning, that cleared northeastwards, and then we were left with a lot of showers, some of these heavy and thundery, reports of hail as well, and they're going to linger this evening. So you may find that you do have another heavy downpour where you live and into the first part of the night, but then gradually fading, and we're left with a largely dry picture across the region. Quite a lot of cloud around as well, so our temperatures holding up under that cloud, and lowest values around 5 or 6 degrees. So we start the day tomorrow already quite overcast. You can see the area of low pressure heading eastwards, and actually high pressure is going to start building in towards the end of the week, so that will mean things will turn more settled. But before then it's going to stay a little bit cool, and with further rain expected. So expect an overcast start to Thursday, and then there will be some showers developing, some brighter spells breaking through that cloud as we go through the day, but some of these showers once more could be pretty heavy and possibly thundery. Looking at our temperatures anywhere really between 12 and 15 degrees, perhaps southern counties just getting a little higher in any sunshine, but generally a good scattering of showers expected for the afternoon, and the possibility of those showers lingering into the evening. Then a quick look at Friday. Well, that looks like an overcast start, but an improving picture as we go through the day, with brighter skies following and a bit of sunshine coming through, and the temperatures just starting to climb a little bit. So 14, perhaps 15 degrees expected for Friday. Now, high pressure then starts to build into the weekend, so we are going to see warmer weather on our way, and you can see from the air mass chart that warmer air heading our way for the second half of the weekend and into next week. So if we have a quick look at the outlook, you can see a little bit cool and unsettled as throughout the weekend, and then temperatures building into next week, and it looks like high pressure is going to stick around for a while. Let's go back to Stuart now in Colchester.
Alex, thank you very much indeed. We're going to talk to Nikki Fox, who's spent the day here. It is fantastic. Have we heard from the Department of Health?
Yes, they sent us a statement today, and they say that they are funding 200,000 extra staff, people like the paramedics and the physiotherapists that already work here. So this is a blueprint for the future, with practices merging together and becoming bigger. They're also trying to attract part-time staff to fill the gaps and trying to recruit from places like Australia and Europe, but the numbers are relatively small.
And your overall impressions of what you've seen here today?
Well, I've seen staff work incredibly hard, and these paramedics and of course nurse practitioners, they do fill some of the gaps and take the pressure off the GPs, but 62% of GPs in this area are now of retirement age. And the fact is, some people still need to see a GP. They were telling me here earlier that they've advertised for a GP position here for a year, and they've not had anybody apply. So at the end of the day, if they can't get the GPs, there still is a big problem.
I think that one of the figures that struck me, in a month, 300 people did not arrive for their appointment. That's shocking, isn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't make it any better, does it? No. And it costs money. These are staff that don't need to be, rebooking the appointments, and that's one thing we could all do to help.
Nikki, thank you very much, and we must say thank you to all the staff here at the surgery who've made us very welcome today. If you've booked to see a doctor, please go for your appointment. From all of us at Look East, good night.